I've had many requests on this, and so I'm just gonna finally show you. This is how I, as a haul road driver, throw my triple rail chains. I don't know how your truck is set up, but with mine, I have 2 sets of lockers. If I know I'm going for a really icy hill, I want to make sure that they're both locked because I'm going to use them anyway. But I do that before I ever stop at a safe pullout to make sure that I know that they're locked by the time I get rolling again. Sometimes, depending on how they work in your vehicle, it may take a little bit for those lockers to actually engage. And when you take the chains off later, they're not going to be lined up the same. Let's step out of the truck and I'll show you what I've got on my truck for triple rails. I have this type of chain rack. There's multiple types of chain racks that are available. You can get ones that go along the side of your fuel tanks. I personally like these the best because it's a lot easier for me to pull it off. And then I know where I am lined up. Now, before you throw them, you always want to make sure that your studs are facing each other. And that comes important shortly. Place it over. You line it up. Just like this. At this point, we're going to flip this outer over to the other side. And line it up again. We want it to be as straight across as possible. If you have a chain link that's doing, let's say this, you're gonna have a lot of give. You wanna keep them as flat as possible. Look here. You wanna keep them as flat as possible. In some cases, you can throw your chain so your hooks look like this, are on the back side, and then you roll onto your chain. For this demonstration, I'm gonna roll back onto my chains. So when I am done putting it on either side, I wanna make sure that I kick or move this underneath my tire so it catches. So I'm only gonna throw this one side. I just duplicate it and do the same thing on the other. I've got my chains laid out flush to my tires. Everything's straight across. It's time to roll back onto the chains. Now that I've rolled back onto my chains, the chains are coming up all the way underneath the tires on both sides. And you can see that as indicated by here. I know I can get these chains tight. It's even like that on the inside. So right now, just to be clear, when I'm throwing a set of chains, I am not in between my tires generally. But for this and a demonstration for you, I want to really show you what it is that we do out here on the haul road. The first link that you want to put together is your center. I actually have quite a bit of play. I've lined this chain up really nicely. It doesn't always work like this. When you've wiped out on a hill and you need to get out and throw a set of chains, sometimes it doesn't always line up. They're there just to get you to the top. If you have to reset them then, that's how you do it. I'm gonna take this last link. If my chains were not as loose like this, I might have to go to this link. But because I have the space, I'm gonna use this last link and bring it and hook it here, just like that. Now the next step is to get the inner hook hooked. Don't jump to the outside first. You do the center, the inner, and then you go to the outside. And the reason for that is because on the outside, you can really play with how tight you get it and it gives you more leverage. You kind of work your chain links across the tire. Sometimes it makes it easier to get more of that play, because the less play you have in your tire chains, the better. So when I'm finding which hook I'm gonna use, you can see I don't have a whole heck of a lot to get this one on, but I know that when I throw this chain on here, it's gonna be tight. And to get that extra play, I'll pull on the inside a little bit to make it so I can. Here's the thing I'll tell you. At this point, with this set of chains, I'm gonna hook it to this little hook here. However, if you have more than this for links, let's say you've got 5 links and they come all the way out here, one of the things that I do is I throw that last link back over. And the reason is because I don't want those links flinging around and hitting any of my airlines or my airbag. I want to keep this truck in its top performance, and having those links flinging around, it's not going to do me any good. Next step here is to hook it onto this. Now that I've got my center link, my inner link, now is the time I go to work on the outside. So for this one, all you do is you hook it up, and this is the side you can really play with how tight you want it. I want this to be tighter, I'll go a few links down. So now that we've installed the chains, it's a whole heck of a lot easier to take them off. Pretty much all you're gonna do is do the same thing, but in reverse. Outside, inside, and then back to center. Then what I do is I drape them up and over the tires, and I let them fall, and I let them fall to the ground. But I don't just leave them behind the tire. I pull them out to the side like this. The less I'm driving on my chains, the better. I hopped in my truck and I pulled forward off my chains. Now, looks like this. To help me out the next time I throw them, I grab it by the center rail and I pull straight up. Because if you can see, now the studs, the spikes are facing each other. This is exactly how I threw them in the first place. And it makes it a whole heck of a lot easier, especially if you have to pull the chains quickly to get them on the truck as fast as you can. The longer you're spun out on a hill, the more dangerous it is. You gotta be efficient, and this is one way of doing it. The other thing I do is I hang my chains the same way every time. It becomes a pattern, a natural behavior to pull them off and have them ready in order to throw them properly. So for me, I hang them hookless side first. Now I'm not done yet. Something that I've found that's really important. Before I call this task done, I re-hook every hook on my chains. Ice will build up and it'll make it such a pain in the bottom to get them going or to pull those hooks apart. So I just hook them before I ever leave where I'm at. When I'm out there on the haul road, I want to be able to access my chains quickly. I use a bungee to keep them on. You can get locks, but I tell you, if you spun out on Mackie, you're not going to want to have to search for a key in order to pull your chains. You want to get that done quick. That is how I throw a set of triple rail chains. Again, mine are 7 mil. I throw them differently than somebody else might. So if you're out there training or you get your hands on a set and you want to learn how to do it, learn from someone who's done it before. You'll pick up little tips and tricks. Me, for example, I found a tool. I can use this if I ever need that extra leverage. There's all these little things that you can find while throwing a set of chains, learning from others. Now keep in mind, every driver does it just a little bit differently. Some people have different size chains, some people have different racks, some people throw them on different axles. I have fenders here, so I'm not gonna throw them on the front. They're a pain. But in this case, this is how I throw chains when I need to get up and over an icy hill. So when you throw chains, you always want to make sure you're doing a certain speed. When you've got 2 sets on, you want to go 25 or less. When you've got at least 1 set on, you want to go 35 or less. Depends on who you run with, they'll tell you 30. But here's why. You see this? Damage from the chain. See this? Damage from the chain. See that? Damage from chains. And after they pulled the chains off, this is what they look like. Safety first, guys. Slow down. So that driver, we saw those chains, that driver's doing 50 or 60 after he got off one of the hills. That's what tears him up. Keep your speeds down. Stay safe out there.